Hey, welcome to the Book of Day Radio Show. I'm Dr. Robert Benson. As always, before we get started, we want to say thank you to Jehovah. Thank him for his son, Jesus Christ. Thank him for our families. Thank him for work and our ability to do the things we're able to do. The Book of Dad Radio Show, floating like normal with my main man, extraordinaire, engineer, Eddie G. What's up, man?
Hey, what's up, brother? How you feel, man?
I'm feeling pretty good. I don't know about you over there. What's going on?
Hey, I'm going to go through this again. I'm surviving the COVID-20. I got my shot, and the shot jacked me up for like a day and a half. So I'm feeling good now. I got a little cough, so if you guys hear me coughing, that's what it is. I can't spread the disease through the computer, so you're all right.
That's good. Well, you know, man, I took the vaccine myself. I'd had the Moderna shots, both shots. I have to admit, the second in the series did something similar to me too. Took me down for about 16 hours or so. But the key is that we took the vaccination. That means we're being proactive and we're being good stewards of trying to get this thing boxed in, as we've heard. But now we got a special guest with us today. The first thing I'm going to ask her before we even say her name is, did you get the shot, young lady?
I did not, but I will make my appointment right after this.
Right, so we got a strong woman on board with us, Miss Kee Kee Barber, a new member of the NASCA team, a podcast host of the show called Notes with Kee Kee Barber podcast. And I love the way she pronounces and spells the word notes. I'm going to let her talk to about all of that. But Kee Kee, welcome to the show and welcome to the NASCA team. How are you today?
Thank you so much, guys. Great seeing you guys. Thank you for having me. When I was thinking about everything with the podcast, has been something I've been probably carrying for like years, and now I finally had a chance to get it out and push this baby out and actually see it come to life. I thought of nobody else but Ed. I'm like, Ed, that's what I call him. That's the first. So I talked to Ed.
That's right.
You know, take notes with Kee Kee Barber, and notes, like you said, spelled KNOWTES, and that's just take knowledge. That's all it is. So that's why I spelled it take notes like that. So that's all it is. It's sharing my life experiences and hoping somebody can gather something from it to avoid some pitfalls.
Well, you know, I'm glad that you are joining the team, but I'm going to let Ed talk a little bit more about why he has made the decision to allow you a venue on this great NASCA team. Ed, talk more about what it is you see in her content that our listeners will definitely find it interesting and gather things from.
Well, I think that our special guest, Miss Kee Kee Barber, I've known her for a long time, and it's the perspective she's coming from, right? So on Life and Spirit Online, we are based on providing information as well as entertainment, but basically information that will make you live a better life. And Kee Kee's podcast and radio show, it gives you those nuggets and tidbits that are necessary to direct you in different parts of your life. She may talk about entrepreneurism one day. She may talk about family another day, but all of it is from her experience and from her perspective, which is fresh because now you can hear from a different person and you can listen and you can relate to what she's saying. And that's what I like about it. And I'm sure everybody's going to enjoy it. You just need to tune in every Tuesday night at 8, and then you can check out her podcast anywhere on all the platforms.
Wow. Okay. Great stuff. Kee Kee, now talk to us a little bit about what we can expect in the way of your program, how things going to flow. What kind of guests are you going to have? Are you going to talk to us from your personal experiences? Are you going to bring people in to share their insights, or what are you planning to do?
Yes, I will do both. I will do a little bit of everything. Sometimes I'll sit and I'll just tell about my life experiences. I'll give you guys steppers, pointers on how to go about it. If you want to buy a home, I'll tell you how to buy a home. If you want to, get your credit together, I'll tell you about getting your credit together. If you want to open your business, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm going to push you into your business. So I'm just here as a push partner. That's all I am. And letting people see that you can come from nothing and make something. God is here with all of us, but he just needs a willing vessel. And he needs you to have faith and believe that he could do it. And if you could do those things, you could have everything that I have. You definitely can.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some people think it's far-fetched that they can't, you know, but I am a living reality that my ladder is greater. I'm living it out now.
Well, I love the term push partner. I've never heard that, and I'm going to steal it, so you can rest assured of that.
Yes, push partner. Hold their hand through it.
From reading, there you go. One time, Ed said something I thought was pretty profound. He said, you can either push somebody through something or pull them, but one way or another, you're going to give them that assistance and guidance that they need. So in some cases, I'm sure you'll be pulling people rather than pushing them to get them the information that they need. But let me shift gears a little bit, because I read your bio and I read some things about you. And in my musings, I use a term called hard knocks, a school of hard knocks. And from personal perspective, and what I like to term that is a person who's been through some of the worst atrocities that you can go through. I think a person who is a graduate of School of Hard Knocks is one who's suffered abuses and those types of things. Would you please expound on and share some of the things that brings you through the School of Hard Knocks that allows you to present the person that you are today, and how you've used those things rather than as obstacles? You've used them as catalysts to become who you are today.
Wow, yeah. So I definitely think I graduated top of my class in the School of Hard Knocks. I think I definitely been through some things, but like it started like from a child. I've been through so many things, from, like I said, abuse, ancestral abuse, sexual abuse, at the hands of my biological father, mental, verbal, physical abuse. We've been homeless. We've been without water, without heat, just anything that you could probably think of that would be horrible for a child to go through. However, my mom had 12 of us, and she did the best that she could do. I am the oldest girl. I am the third oldest child. And when I was younger, I always thought, like, God, if there's a God, why do I have to go? I'm a child. Why do I have to go through all of this? But I see now my purpose. Because I weathered the storm, and because I came through it. Now I can tell people how to get through it. I am a living testimony of God's grace, God's mercy, and God's kindness. And when I think about it now, why not me? I'm glad you chose me. I'm glad he chose me to go through all those things, you know, so I can help a lot of people. A lot of people are in the church hurting. A lot of people in the church go through sexual abuse. They don't know how to forgive. I've come through and learned how to forgive. I've gotten through some things, and I could sit with a person who says they did that to me. How can you? I can't forgive them, and I'm like, well, they did that to me too, and I forgave them. So you can. It's possible. You just have to make a choice on forgiveness. You know, so I'm not a person that's sitting here as a professor that's reading something out of a book. I walk through it, so I could tell you a little bit more. So I believe that people, from that perspective, would trust. Because they've seen me on the bottom. They see me go through horrible things, and they see me rise to the occasion, especially my family. My family is my first audience, because even my siblings are astounded, you know. So I just give God glory for everything that he's brought me through.
You know, that's amazing you mentioned that. And I think it's so profound, because you nailed it when you said, you know, that there is no more telling or rewarding education than experience. You can read about all kind of things in books and such, but if you don't experience it for yourself, the appreciation just simply isn't there. There is no application, if you will. But you talked about your family, and you talked about your place within your siblings. Talk briefly about how being one of the older of a group of 12 children has given you an inherent wisdom, if you will, outside of all of your other experiences.
Well, on top of me being I was the third oldest child, but the oldest girl, which made me the oldest child. if you know what I mean. So
Yes,
I had two
exactly.
brothers older
Yes.
than me, but I was mommy. I was still a mommy. I had to learn everything. I had to help my mom. I was the oldest girl. So they look at me as I'm Kee Kee, their sister, but I'm Kee Kee, their mother figure. So even with my mom growing up, my parents were illiterate. They didn't read. So all my business savvy comes from filling out applications for welfare. I could fill out an application with
Wow.
my eyes closed, but it came from that experience of having to like put how many people down here now? What you want? I'm like 8. Like what do you want me to put down? So learning to read because I had to read for everybody in the house. So all those experiences I did not understand back then, but I understand very well now.
Well,
Why I was on the path that God put me on.
and so well stated, and maternal instincts that were born naturally. But this is Book of Dad Radio Show. I'm Dr. Robert Benson with Eddie G. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to continue to pick the brain of our new NASCA team member, Kee Kee Barber. We'll be right back.
See why listeners from over 150 countries around the world follow the Book of Dad Radio Show. Join Dr. Robert Benson and Eddie G as they chat with special guests who share their stories and information that will change your life. Watch and listen on lifeandspiritonline.com or subscribe to the Book of Dad Radio Show on Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcast. Brought to you by the NASCA Network.
Only thing that there is fear is self. Sometimes I think I'm really scared of myself. I never try because I'm scared to fail. Only one to hold the key to the cell. Please change my mindset so I won't let nothing impede my step. I serve the best, so why oh why am I living like this? Enough is enough. Enough is enough.
Yes, sir. Enough is enough. That's our girl, Kee Kee Barber. Back in the day, she was on stage kicking her thing. I see you. So I'm not going to say how many years ago that was, but she's actually been involved with the Life and Spirit family for a very long time. Back when we started, this was around 2012 or so, in order for us to be known and awareness for the station, we started something called Gospel Slam. And we went around the country, and the Gospel Slam had poets, praise dancers, gospel rappers, musicians. And it was an opportunity to let people know about Life and Spirit and also let them share their ministries. And that's from our first Gospel Slam in Philadelphia. And Kee Kee was the headliner, and she tore the house down. And that's how long I've known her. And it's from actually the same church. We went to the same church, which is Miracle Temple with Apostle Warren Martin. And ever since then, if you listen to her words, you hear a positive message, you hear an encouraging message. And that's what is translating through on her podcast, Take Notes with Kee Kee Barber. So this is how I know what she's going to deliver to you is going to be great, because I've seen her doing it over the years. So once again, I want to welcome you to the Life and Spirit team, and just give us a little bit more about how what you talk about that you think can change some lives.
Okay, so with Take Notes with Kee Kee Barber, when I was going before the Lord about it, I'm like, Lord, what do you want to name it? What do you want to call it? What do you want to, and all of my list of experiences came up. Like, somebody called me a jack of all trades. Somebody said Kee Kee does it all. Somebody I had so many nicknames because I knew a little bit about everything, just a little bit about everything from my experiences. So I just took them all and rolled them up. All of my experiences from motherhood, from divorce, from business, from everything, from abuse, and tell people exactly how to go through it and get over it, and to get through it and let them know that there is life on the other side of it. It's definitely going to be real. It's not probably for everybody, but what I know that God told me is that He wants us to be whole. People see us, like I said, in church, rolling around, We'll listen to a good word. We'll go back outside and live any kind of way. I want to get to a person, even a person that's in church that selling the chicken dinners. I was at a church one time. Somebody was selling chicken dinners, and I was performing. I think I was doing hair. I might have been doing like a hair. I used to do hair free for the young girls back to school. So I was doing something, and the pastor said, Key, after you're done, go get something to eat. And I go get something to eat, and she like, can I help you? Like, I'm here for that woman because I want to know, how do you praise Jesus all these years and you say you go in your prayer closet and you come out the same? This is what I want to know. These are the questions I ask God, because a real encounter with Christ will have you come out changed and different. I mean, even with everything that's going on in the world, all the racism and everything, even when I try to be like, power, and I go into my prayer closet and come out and I'm just mushy, like, all right, Lord, you love us all, So if you're going before God all the time, consistently, constantly, there's no reason that you should be nasty. Naming the name of Christ. True. Cussing people out, unchanged. Going from what you were doing 20 years ago, still doing the same thing, no growth, no fruit, nothing on your tree. Like, I'm out here to grab it all. I told my husband one time, I said, listen, I've done a lot by myself. I said, but you're a little bigger in stature, so now I can stand on your shoulders and I'm gonna take it all. I'm taking everything if I can stand on your shoulders. Just hold me up a little bit higher and let me reach it all and tear it down. And that's what I want to do for the kingdom of God. I want them to be able to not hear about stories. I want them to see it right in their face. Somebody go from the pit to the palace.
Well, that's a great analogy. In Kee Kee, what I see and feel and hear from you is strength. And it leads me to one of my favorite quotes, and I was probably going to use this later in the show as we close up, but I have to say it now because I want to ask you a question about this. And it's like, the Bible says the meek shall inherit the earth, but I say they've always been strong in mind before they can inherit anything. Has there ever been a time that you wish you were a little bit more stronger than you are now? I mean, because the strength from you is oozing, and I can't help but be in awe about it. But I just want to ask that question because I don't see where there was ever a time when you were, meek, if you will, or subject to some of the things that you've done and had to go through.
I would say, I went before God one time. I had a song called Humanized. And I told God, I just want to be humanized because I feel like I'm always too strong. And I was going through something with my daughter. My daughter was abused by my first husband. So that's, why I had to end. She was molested by my first husband. So history repeated itself. I had to make a choice to go ahead and leave that relationship to save my child. And I just wanted to do everything opposite of what a Christian would do, and I got 6 whole brothers and a whole lot of other things going on. And I still had to go before God and peace and be like, I'm hurting. I don't know what's going on. I'm tired of being strong. I just want to be human. I want I asked God, can I have a moment of temporary insanity? And would you excuse me for it? That's what I asked God for. One moment of temporary insanity and to come out and everything be fine after that. And of course the answer was no. Of course it was not. But stronger, no. Sometimes I ask God to let me just fall out sometimes and not be as strong as I am. But I know that there are people that I have to carry, people I have to pull, like I said. Some people I have to get over the hole. So if I fall, they all fall. So I don't have that liberty.
Wow. You don't have the luxury of being weak or anything like that. And it just was something I figured I'd ask you about. But let's talk a little bit about some of the other stuff, because I know you're an author. And me personally, when I write, I find it therapeutic. It's a vomiting of all sort of emotions and things like that. I just get it on paper and I'm able to cope. But let's talk a little bit about some of what you're doing, where you're reaching out to people in the community, this powwow organization and thing that you're doing right now.
Powwow, I do. Okay, so philanthropy is my heart. That's my heartbeat. I've always wanted to give since I was little. If somebody ain't had no lunch, I gave them my lunch. If somebody was being bullied, I'm little, but I'm like, you want me to help you? I'll help you. They're not gonna scare you. So I've always had that type of thing. So in the community, I created something called Powwow, which it was an acronym for Passing On Womanly Words of Wisdom. And what we did was we got a lot of girls from the community who were wayward or whose moms thought they were out of control and couldn't handle them. And just under the voice of reason, for some reason, even being an instructor, working as a teacher right now, educator, I can get through to people. I think I have a anointing of grace because you'll see one child going crazy with somebody else, and I walk in the room and they like, but miss, but I ain't mean to do it, miss. And they just melt. And it's just a whole different dynamic. And my principal was like, why do they respond like that to you? And I said, because I see them. There's a difference. So with Powwow, it's just me sitting with a bunch of young girls saying, I see you. I was there. So let me help you around this. Let me help you avoid some pitfalls. And they have real issues. Children deal with real issues, like valid. And they don't know how to cope with them. They don't know how to control them. They don't know how they're acting out. So I'm that person that they used to sit with them and call them and go to their schools when their moms couldn't make it. And if they didn't have anybody at a game, I'm there like cheering on. I had my sisters were a part of the team. So I'm like, you go to that one report card conference, you go over here. We're just going to step in as parents until the moms can, get themselves together. So they can have a memory of somebody being there for them.
Yeah, and I tell you, that's a great point. I love the way you close that out, a memory of someone being there for them. Because, see, me, the only people I ever met or remember the folks who I knew cared about me. A lot of people have taught me things, but the people who I remember the most are the ones that I know they legitimately cared about me. So, but with that said, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break one more time with my main man, Eddie G, and new NASCAR team member, Kee Kee Barber. She is kicking some great knowledge to us and going to kick a whole lot more. Look at that radio show, and we'll be right back.
You have something special. You have greatness in you. Hello, I'm Les Brown, Mrs. Mamie Brown's baby boy. I want you to spread the word to your family members and friends to listen to LesBrownGreatnessRadio.com. Absolutely. And let me share with you why we're going to be focusing on positive things, because whatever you focus on the longest becomes the strongest. And now more than ever, when the suicide rate has increased over 33%, when the suicide rate of young children between 5 and 11 has doubled, people feeling hopeless and stressed out and powerless, we need programming that can bring out the greatness in them. And that's what we will be focused on. When you listen, it will be an experience that will transform your life. LesBrownGreatnessRadio.com. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Hey, and we're right back. Look at that radio show. I'm Dr. Robert Benson. And I got my main man, Eddie G, hanging out as usual, and another great guest in Miss Kee Kee Barber. But remember, continue to check us out on all the podcast venues, and we're on YouTube. And you know that because you're checking us out. The numbers don't lie. So continue to check us out on the Book of Dad radio show. But when we left off, we were talking to the very, very articulate and talented Kee Kee Barber. She's from that talent-rich oasis, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. She has elevated herself from negativity on so many levels, and it has caused her to muse, therapeutically muse, and write about things that she's going to share with us. She's going to pick a couple of topics out of her book and give us the skinny on it, or the fat on it in this case, if you will. So Kee Kee, enlighten us. Come on back and finish talking to us. You're not off the hook yet, so forget about it.
So going through this book, oh my God. First of all, this book, anybody that wants to purge, anybody that wants to cleanse themselves and just be free from some things, start writing. The Bible does say, write the vision, make it plain and things like that. But you'll know if you're free from something if you start writing about it, and it's still like, it's a source of, oh my God, I thought I was over that, and then this happened years later. But Gritty, it's an acronym. I like acronyms, just like Powwow. I like acronyms, you guys. So Gritty stands for Greatness Revealed in Tough Times Through Yahweh, and basically it's going from the rose through the concrete story, and how growing up in crazy times and abusive situations and things like that, how you can get to your destination with God. And basically, I'm just telling a story of my life. I'm going through abuse. I'm going through the beginning to the end. Abuse, and then how I triumphed and made it out. I actually have another one coming because I stopped at the beginning. People were like, "How you leave a cliffhanger? Oh my God, you left a cliffhanger." So that was me following up with my second book. But basically, Seeds of Fear. Seeds of Fear is basically the first chapter, and we're talking about in Seeds of Fear is how those seeds are planted and how many different ways they're planted. Be it somebody said something to you, be it somebody trying to scare you, doubt around you. My mom living like this, I'm gonna live like this for the rest of my life. You just start taking on these different things, even as a child, but being bullied in school, being talked about, being not liked by people, just those little things that happen as a child that we can. And I talk about it on the podcast too, that we carry into our adulthood. So I'll talk about seeds of fear. Then I talk about my innocence. That's where I was actually violated by my biological father. Then I talk about Rescue Me, and we have a segment on my podcast called Swept, and Swept is another acronym for Suffering While Everyone Proceeds to Tread. And this is actually what I was going through when I was younger with the Rescue Me title, because nobody knew about it but me, so I was suffering in silence. And then the Swept part came when people did know, and they still was like, "Be quiet." So that's, and we still won't go to church, and we still won't do all this stuff, but you better shut up. You better not say nothing about nothing. And how you can't totally heal with the rug laying on you. It's too heavy. You already beaten down. You're already downtrodden. You can't even get the rug off you. That's how weak you are. But when people try to put a Band-Aid on it and tell you not to deal with your real emotions and your real feelings, and they just want you to go on and get on with life, that's what Rescue Me is about. Like, Lord, please rescue me, the total me. And a letter is a chapter in my book. My grandmother, my most favorite person on the face of the earth when she was here, Amy Adams, God bless her soul. She gave me this nugget. She didn't know I was abused at the time, but she did give me this nugget. She introduced me to Christ. It was the first time early on, and she was like, "You know what? When nobody hear you, know who always listening? Jesus." So she also is the person I can credit for my writing ability, because she's told me to write stuff down. So she said, "Always write a letter to Jesus every night, Kee Kee." And I was young, and I always wrote a letter to Jesus. I told him everything. It was like almost like a diary, but I was talking to Jesus. And that's how I got my relationship with God. That's how I formed a relationship with God. That letter my grandma told me to write to Jesus every night turned into me learning how to pray. And became what I am today with writing everything down. I write everything down, There's another one called Rescue Someone Else. This is when my daughter went through the same exact story of abuse. And this is so funny because God always shows me real life lessons. And one of my questions to God was always, why didn't my mom just leave? Because at one point in the book, you'll read where my mom finally found out. I told her, she knew. She put my father out, and then I come home from school one day. My mom's cooking chicken. I smell the fried chicken. I'm happy. I'm going to the kitchen, and she's like, "Go upstairs. Your father wants you." I'm like, "My father? What are you doing here?" So she tells me to go upstairs. And I'm just nervous. I mean, even now, my sweaty palms, I'm like, "Oh my God, I told on him. What is he going to do? What is he going, and had to go back in that room only for him to say, "I'm sorry for what I did. But don't, he said, it was just crazy. But I know the fear was crazy. And then my world was crushed because now both of y'all, I'm looking at both of y'all as my protectors, and I can't trust either one of y'all at this point. I'm by myself in this house or whatever. But then I go on to God puts me right in the same shoes, because I said, if anything ever happened to my daughter like that, I'm out. Spoke it right into existence. Happened to my daughter, I was out. But for the first time, God showed me the exact shoes my mom was in when it happened to me. So I saw it from a different perspective. Like, everything with me is a learning experience. I take every lesson and I apply it. And for me to have to see it like that was like, wow, my mom didn't have education. She was on welfare. She depended on this man for everything. Me, I'm independent, the total opposite of how my mom was. And still it was hard to walk away from a whole husband of 12 years. Because before that happened, I didn't know anything, you know? So I would pick up the phone and dial numbers and get to the last one and be like, oh, we're not together anymore. He's about to go to jail, you know? So I had to learn the fact that, oh, you go through it. So I had a respect for my mother. And I was just like, wow, that's all she knew. That's all she knew. And then for my father, in that regard, that's all he knew. So instead of me looking at my dad like an abuser or like a pedophile or whatever it was, I look at it as my father just doing what he learned. He was molested by his father.
Yeah, he's a product of the environment.
Product of his environment, and everybody can't break free from that environment. I grew up saying, I'm not going to be promiscuous. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. I made up in my mind from a young age that wasn't going to be me. But some people don't have the wherewithal to actually tackle those things because they don't have the right counsel and things like that. So where I was before mad at people, God gave me an understanding and a heart for people. You know, so now whereas people like they advocate for people who are molested, I ask God to let me help the aggressor because I want to know from what place they come from. You know, I want to know how deep it is and why can't they get out of it? And it's deliverance, you know, so that intrigues me, the aggressor as opposed to the person that was transgressed, you know, against. So.
Yeah, I get it, and that's probably one of the best ways to become healed yourself is to take and look at things from a perspective other than your own. But Kee Kee, listen, to be continued, not only on this show but on your own show. But I'm going to ask Eddie G to come in and give us a few quips on his way out because we got to tie this show up, but we're definitely going to have you back again. And you need to have me on your show too. So okay,
I will.
Sorry, folks. I still have that cough, so that's why I'm not talking much today. But
it's okay. Man.
When you look at your life, and there's different parts of it that you mastered, that you experienced. What is the connecting piece between? Okay, you had a music career, marriage, motherhood, entrepreneurship, being an author. What is it about all those things that ties you together and gives you that gift of what to share? Like, what would you say to somebody who was looking for, there's no secret to life, right? But just a perspective that you learned from being in all those situations.
Okay, so I think I have a recipe for it. I call it a recipe, and I always tell everybody once you have the recipe, you can always bake the cake, and that's what I've been doing, baking the same cake in different capacities all these years. I apply the same thing to everything that I do. I trust God with my whole heart. I believe wholeheartedly what He says. If He says no, I'm good with it. I'll move on to the next thing. Whereas before, I used to be like offended, like, Lord, why can't I? Like, if you said no, you know what's best for me. I'm gonna keep on moving. You know, I trust God with my whole. I involve Him in every aspect of my life, everything. And once I learned my purpose, and I asked Him, "What's my purpose?" And I went back to a child. My purpose is to build up. My purpose is to show people what hope looks like. My whole story, my whole life, how He master planned, and this whole thing was not by accident. It was definitely to show people that even though they went through a hard time, you can definitely come out if you keep God at the front of your life. You keep God at the front. You keep pushing. You keep believing. You stay positive. Don't worry about what they're doing. Don't stick in. You stand out and be what God told you to be. Don't follow the pack. Don't try to be a clone. Be unapologetically you and be authentic. And I think that because I'm authentic, some call me raw. You know, I might be raw, but I'm going to give you the truth. When you come with me, I say one thing: I don't like fake, fraudulent, or phony, and I can see it a mile away. And so can other people.
Yeah.
I don't do fake, fraudulent, or phony. And I don't want it for myself, and I wouldn't give it to anybody else. And if I don't know an answer, I'll simply say I don't know, but I'll find that out for you. I'm not, we're not going to lie about anything. So I think everything that ties everything together is my love, my commitment for God, and me letting go of Kee Kee and saying, Lord, even though I want to still do the shops, please let me do the shops. And he's like, let it go. It's time to do something else. And he keeps reinventing me. And if I was worried about what other people thought, I would probably not be here. But because like I said in my podcast, I've gotten delivered from the disease to please people. I'm just in this flow with God. Like whatever happens, I'm with him. If he says yes, I'm with you. If you say no, Lord, you know what's best for me. So that's just how I flow. It takes a minute to get there though. But I'm in my flow right now.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, Kee Kee Barber, the new host of the Notes with Kee Kee Barber.
Taking notes with Kee Kee Barber.
Take notes, yeah.
Taking notes with Kee Kee Barber. Thank you very much for the correction. I stand corrected. But she said something real profound, and I got to touch on it before we get out of here, is that sometimes God definitely has to take something from you in order for you to realize and see what he has for you. Believe me, I've spent a lot of time chasing down things that weren't for me to have. And once I realized that, if that ain't for me, I'm able to progress on and to be who I am today. But it's Book of That Radio Show. I'm Dr. Robert Benson with my main man, Eddie G, and the new team member, Kee Kee Barber. I want to close out with a quote, and it's this simple. Like she said, follow God. It's Book of That Radio Show. We'll talk to you next time.